I have a movie to fix. Kelly gave me this movie. Thank you, Kelly. It's The Quest from 1996, Jean Claude Van Damme movie. And I went and rewatched The Quest, and she wanted to see if I could fix it. Now, before I get started on The Quest, 1996, a time of many fighting games and movies was coming out. We had Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and the movies were being made. We had Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Immortal Kombat, and so many more. I always like to mention Immortal Kombat because that was the Roddy Piper vehicle where it just made no sense and it goes off the rails really quickly. But what always kind of sparked my interest was when The Quest came out, it was actually had a lot of money behind it. And, Roger Moore's in it. James Remar's in it. It had a little bit of power, not for the time. Like I would say the biggest star in it, of course, was Jean Claude Van Damme. But by 1996, this is where his star hasn't faded completely. He still had some clout in the industry, but it wasn't as strong as it was maybe even like a year or 2 or 3 before. He was fading in certain areas. And so was his idea of an action movie. So when The Quest came out, this was a type of movie where they were really trying to hit that market of those fighting, the fighting games, turned movies like the Mortal Kombats and the Street Fighters and such, which is funny because, of course, we all know Jean Claude Van Damme was in the Street Fighter movie, which was abysmal and just terrible all around. So when, rewatching this movie, I haven't seen it since the 90s probably, it reminded me very heavily of Bloodsport. And here's where a lot of people are going to get mad at me. I think it, as a movie, story-wise, and as it's shot and filmed and acted, is better than Bloodsport. Now, if you put two movies in front of me and you say, which one are you going to watch every day? Bloodsport. I will listen to that cat meow during the music every day of the week. Yes, there is a cat meow. If you don't believe me, go back and rewatch the movie. So Jean Claude Van Damme, I do not know this for a fact. I tried to stay away from more of the trivia from it because I wanted to come at this from a point of view of like fixing the story or fixing like the elements of the movie that I feel needed fixing. And I didn't want to fix any of the politics of what went into the movie, what was happening, things like that. But I did want to share that as I was watching this and I was drawing comparisons, clearly somebody had to have gone up to Jean Claude Van Damme and say, hey guys, or hey, Jean Claude, you were clearly in two of the greatest fight movies of all time, and we're trying to remake this and take the taste out of people's mouth from Street Fighter. Why don't we do something like basically Bloodsport and Street Fighter combined, or not really Street Fighter, but maybe like Bloodsport and Mortal Kombat combined, because it is more Mortal Kombat-esque. My biggest issue is it seems like a lot of ego went into this, whereas when I go back and I rewatch Bloodsport, there's so many laughable qualities of that movie. Especially the kid who plays young Jean Claude Van Damme in the movie, or Frank Du in the movie, is laughable. Every dubbed line he gives does not match the facial expression he's giving, does not match the body language that he's putting forward. His face and his body language don't match. It is horrible. Nothing about this works. He's being matched up against two other actors. Like one's a kid and the other one is Sonny Chiba. So, they're making it work, but this kid sucks. And then you're like adding this element of like running away from I don't even know, the U.S. military. And you have Forrest Whitaker now chasing him down. It was a lot of issues. I understand that it was based on a true story of Frank Du's life and things like that, whatever. But fast forward, now you got we're here with The Quest. And I really feel like this was a way for Jean Claude Van Damme to say, all right, I'm going to remake that. It's got some more money behind it. It's going to be better, blah, 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 blah. And again, I maintain story-wise it was. Here's my problem. The things that need to be fixed with this movie are Jean Claude Van Damme. Now, fighting-wise, fine. But you're never building any real suspense. Okay? Every bit of trouble that happens in this movie gets settled real fast. There's no true turmoil to it. At least in like Bloodsport, there's consequences. There's things that like Frank has to get through. And it's at times it's like, is this going to work? Is this going to happen? There's never a point where you're like, and his name is Chris Dubois in the movie. And, you know, he's from America. And basically what happens is he's on the run from the mobsters and the cops because he is a clown during the day. And that's how he makes his money. And then like all the orphaned kids, like he collects them up and like takes care of them, but they rob people and they all kind of split it. So they decide to take on a shipment to the mob one day and take like the big score, and they get caught. Like the mob figures it out and they go after him, right after him. And it's like they shoot one of the kids. And I'm not laughing because the kid gets shot. I'm laughing because it's done laughably. Like they just did not do it well. And it's so weird how they kind of work it out. He runs away, and then the cops are after him as well, and he winds up fighting and getting knocked out, and he falls onto like this cargo that's being loaded onto the ship, and so he's just like knocked out. Nobody notices him on this cargo, and he gets loaded onto the ship. Then he gets found, and he's a stowaway. So they enslave him. They just like, oh, we have a stowaway, and they enslave him. They put him in shackles, and now, but the hardest thing he goes through is he grows a beard. That's it. It seems like a day later, he just has a full beard, and he's in a different country. You know, they're going towards Thailand, and he's just like kind of swabbing the deck and pouring out the buckets over the side and stuff. There's nobody's beating him up. Nobody's doing anything to him. They're just like, get back to work. Like, that's it. Then their ship gets attacked and he gets taken by somebody else and dropped off on an island to be a fight, like almost like a gladiator, like a fighting slave. Like, here you go. Here's another guy. Teach him Muay Thai, and there you go. It all ends up with him, you know, chasing it, getting back together with like these con men who were the ones that sold him into this like fighting slave ring or whatever. And, he wants to get back into, and he wants to go to this major fight. He becomes this big time fighter for them. And he wants to go to this big fight to prove who the best in the world is. And you can only go by invitation. He befriends the heavyweight boxing champ of the world, who's played by James Remar. And he tells him, he beats him in a fight. And there's like a lot of respect there. So he's like, all right, I'm going to coach you. And at this arena, they tell him, like, you can't leave. Like, you're here now. If you're going to give him your spot, you stay here for the rest of your life. You can't move. You know, win, lose, or draw, you're stuck. Oh, no, he's like, unless he wins, you have to stay here. You're with us. And, of course, we know how it goes. But, like, the thing that I think gets in the way is that the only way to really fix this movie is you got to create a sense that there could be a loss. You have to give us, you know, this feeling of he's going on this quest. It doesn't feel like a quest. It feels like a mishap each time that leads us, and they're not showing us any of the journey. Like, legitimately, he's a clown. He steals a bag. Immediately cuts to, there's nothing in the bag. The mob shows up, shoots a kid. He gets away. Is on a boat. Like, they're cutting things out that you really need in there. There's no real written drama to it. It's just like we're supposed to fill in the blanks. And I think that's lazy writing. And considering we know it's Jean Claude Van Damme, we know he's going to be fine. We know he's going to win. So what's the point? At least like when we watch Kickboxer, he's not even a fighter at the beginning of it. He's helping his brother fight, and then he has to build and train for it. I would have much rather seen that. Like, okay, maybe he's off the streets, maybe he's a scrapper, and he gets dropped off on this island where he has to fight for years. but you don't even get the idea that he has to fight for years. It literally cuts to maybe like 6 months later, and like he's just now like this big fighter. So my biggest thing is like, if you're going to fix this movie, and as it has been given to me, I'm adding elements where you can kind of motor through things quick. Like I would maybe lose the kids side of it, make him more of a streetwise guy who, first of all, take out all the flashbacks, by the way. I don't need to know that he's an orphan. They had this weird flashback where his aunt reads a letter, which you don't even know what it says in the letter. And they're just like, your mom's not coming. She doesn't love you. And then she throws it on the ground and she's like, stay right here on this park bench. I'll be right back. And she never returns. And that's what you're led to believe. And the kid just grows up on the streets. And then he's just an adult, taking care of other kids. I would lose all that. But it starts off like with him as an old man. Oh my God. I'm sorry. My brain is like going a mile a minute with this, but because it's so disjointed. Because there's no, first off, when you start the movie, there is not a single voiceover. It's an old man walks into a bar. The bartender is like serving him a drink. He goes sit down. He's like, hey, when's the last time you've been here? He's like, oh, it's been a long time. And he's back in New York City where he's from. 3 guys come in to rob it. He beats them up, of course. And then like he sits down and then it just goes into the story of when he was a young man in New York. It just transfers into the story. So there's no reason for that opening. We don't need to know it. But then by the end, you cut back to a man holding a book and he's narrating it as if he's been reading us this book the whole time. But this book has never been around, right? It has never been around. It's never been read from. So like there's such a disjointed feel to it. So get rid of all that. Get rid of any flashbacks, anything like that. Have the street guy who's a con man who kind of knows how to scrap and fight. Maybe steal from the wrong guys. They beat him up, throw him on this boat. He gets taken. He's getting beaten every day. They break him, right? He's broken down. He's swabbing a deck or whatever. They sell him to this island of Muay Thai fighters, cut out all the other ones. Maybe there's the con man and you want to keep the con men in there or whatever because they're a part of it. You keep, now they're on the boat or they join the boat later rather than have the whole, like, let's blow up the boat thing. Have them come on, buy the guy because you're like, oh, well, he is a fighter. We've been having him fight on the boat for kicks or whatever. They sell him off to the Muay Thai island. Now just show him for years training. Just training, getting better and better and better and better and better. And then he's pissed that he got sold by these guys because he trusted them or whatever. He's like, hey, we're going to get you off here. We can get you back to America, whatever, blah, blah, blah. This is how it's going to work. And then they sell him. And then cut back to he runs into him years later when he's like, kind of gained his freedom because he's become this big time fighter. And now he wants to go compete. And these guys are like, well, and he's going to kill these guys because he's like, you sold me. And now you're done. And now they're like, well, we can help you get into that tournament, and we got this reporter who's here and she wants to do a story on it. Like, we're headed that way. We can get you in this tournament. We have an idea. We're going to con this heavyweight champ. Then you can bring it back around. Now you've told the story that actually feels like a quest. You get to the fight and it doesn't feel like a super fast fight that has all these different, like a sumo wrestler. You have one dude dressed like a fandango dancer. Like, you have all these crazy stereotypical video game type characters from Street Fighter. And whatever, you can keep that in there if you want to have that element, but now you've given us enough of a story where it's drama and he's gone through hell and you want him to win. But then add those big elements of like blood sport when they threw the dust in his eyes and he had to figure out how to fight blind. But maybe don't do that, but do something like he gets handicapped in it. Like each fight, he's fighting such different styles. Each fight is hurting him in a different way. He has to figure out how to work around it. So when he finally gets to the last fight, he's fighting each of the different ways that he learned throughout. I don't know. That's the way I would probably fix the quest. and have it finish out. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Please let me know in the comments. Sound off. Did I fix that movie? I would love to hear about it. So I appreciate you guys joining in for me tonight. Thank you to Josh Schubart for joining in. I'm going to bring him back on soon so that way we can hopefully show his short film to see his transformation into Ben Grimm, The Thing.